Hey, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast, I'm the newsman, Sam Sachs. Good morning to everyone on this, our last show of the year. Yeah, most of the staff behind the scenes are actually hedgehogs, and they need to hibernate for the winter. So we're taking 2 weeks off. We're going to let everyone rest up, and we'll be back in the new year with a new season of MMN. And maybe even some new ties. And just in time for our final show of the year, we get the most badass photo of the year. That's suspected CEO shooter Luigi Manion being perp-walked in New York, flanked by dozens of NYPD officers in tactical gear. Clearly a stunt staged by the police and the city's mayor, Eric Adams, who followed behind Mangione. The New York Times called it a, quote, unprecedented entourage. But Adams just wanted to be part of the perp walk he never got when he was arrested a couple months ago. The aim of this spectacle, which cost a lot of money and resources, was to intimidate, to send a message to anyone who might get any ideas. But I think we can all agree it backfired. It just ended up making Mangione look like the most dangerous man in the world, but in a cool way, like a movie villain that the audience roots for. In addition to the state murder and terrorism charges announced earlier in the week, the feds jumped in the case and charged Mangione with murder, which at the federal level could be punished by death. Mangione's lawyer called it unprecedented. Karen Friedman Agnifilo said in a statement to the media, quote, "The federal government's reported decision to pile on top of an already overcharged first-degree murder and state terror case is highly unusual and raises serious constitutional and statutory double jeopardy concerns." She said that Mangione's legal team is ready to fight the charges. While NYPD officers were trying to make a big show of Mangione's perp walk in Long Island, they were also busting a picket line in Queens to protect Amazon's profits. The DBK4 delivery station, cops were out in full force. They swarmed and arrested a delivery driver who attempted to get out of his truck and join the picket. Here's video of the scene from labor reporter Alex Press. Later, you can hear crowds of workers chanting, "Let him go, let him go." The driver was later released. But police roughed up other strikers, threatened arrests, all of it illegal interference in protected strike activity. But the NYPD is lawless. Officers stood arm in arm to create a corridor for Amazon's delivery trucks, reminding everyone once again who they protect and serve. The Teamsters Union itself should take notice here, since it represents more than 50,000 cops in police unions around the country. Maybe it should stop that. The NYPD also spotted outside the JFK 8 facility in Staten Island, the site of the first successful unionization campaign at Amazon. Cops were there to prevent any strike activity. Workers did maintain pickets at Amazon centers across the U.S., though, and intend to keep agitating for a contract, and more workers at more fulfillment centers are expected to join the strike. Anyway, it was a busy day for the NYPD. Between orchestrating the dramatic perp walk and breaking a picket line, this is like the hardest the police force has worked in a long time. Starbucks baristas are going on a holiday strike. And just like the picketing Amazon workers, it's because their boss won't negotiate a contract with the unionized cafes, despite promises to do so. The union said it will go on an escalating 5-day unfair labor practices strike. Pickets started going up already today in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Seattle. Starbucks Workers United has managed to organize more than 500 locations and 10,000 baristas over the last 3 years. If you see a picket, respect a picket. In other labor news, Google help staff secured a groundbreaking new labor contract that could serve as a model for other tech workers to avoid their bosses spying on them. 26 people are included in the bargaining unit. They're the folks who publish and update the Google support site for various products and features. They organized with the Alphabet Workers Union last year, but Google refuses to recognize the union, claiming that the workers are only employed by a subcontractor, Accenture. The NLRB ruled against Google. It determined that the company is a joint employer and ordered it to bargain with the union. Google appealed and is now just running down the clock, hoping that a labor board under Trump will reverse its decision. The majority of Google's staff worldwide are actually contract workers, which is why the company is so invested in overturning the joint employer ruling. In the meantime, the union went ahead and negotiated a contract with Accenture. Here's Bloomberg reporting on the details of it. Quote, employees voted Wednesday to ratify the deal, which the union said guarantees permanent work-from-home options, creates a committee where management is required to consider workers' input on software tools, and prohibits Accenture from monitoring their keystrokes or mouse movements. This is the first group of Alphabet union workers to secure a labor contract. The union is an affiliate of the Communication Workers of America. According to a survey last year from ExpressVPN, 78% of employers reported using surveillance software to track what their workers are doing throughout the day. The majority implemented the spying tools during the pandemic as work-from-home arrangements increased. Employers admitted that the information from these surveillance programs informs performance reviews and has even been used to fire employees. So smart of the union to bring this issue into negotiations and secure a win for worker privacy. Word on the street is if you're a foreign army allied with the United States, you can get CNN to report on whatever crap you make up. The news network is now admitting that a story it put out earlier this month about the dramatic release of a man locked inside a prison in Syria was likely a ruse. The report by Clarissa Ward was aired repeatedly on CNN. It captured the moment that rebel fighters supposedly stumbled across a secret locked jail cell in Damascus. Inside was a man who claimed he had been imprisoned by the al-Assad regime for weeks and without food and water for days. Take a look.
I'm a civilian, he says. I'm a civilian. He tells the fighter he's from the city of Homs and has been in the cell for 3 months. Okay, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. He clutches my arm tightly with both hands. Okay. Does anyone have any water?
On its face, the report was ridiculous. Someone who had actually been locked up for weeks without food or water would look a lot worse than this guy did. It really appeared like the man was acting throughout it. He didn't even wince when he looked up at the sun for the first time in apparently a month. I know my first reaction after seeing this was, yeah, that didn't happen. And a lot of other people had the same reaction and started digging. And the Syrian fact-checking organization Verify Psi uncovered the truth about the man. He wasn't who he said he was. Quote, the team discovered that his real name is Salama Mohammed Salama, a revelation that brought shocking details to light. Salama, known as Abu Hamza, is a first lieutenant in Syrian Air Force intelligence, notorious for his activities in Homs. Residents of the Al-Bayada neighborhood identified him as frequently stationed at a checkpoint in the area's western entrance infamous for its abuses. This guy wasn't a victim of Assad's torture prisons, as CNN portrayed him. He was actually a member of Assad's military and himself committed human rights abuses. So why was he in that cell? Well, this is according to Verify Psy. Quote, according to locals, his recent incarceration, lasting less than a month, was due to a dispute over profit sharing from extorted funds with a high-ranking officer. This led to his detention in one of Damascus's cells, as per neighborhood sources. CNN may claim it was tricked here, but the better explanation is the news outlet wanted to get tricked, and it has a history of this. It served as a mouthpiece for the IDF in Gaza. Anchor Jake Tapper claimed in a report last year that Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza was a secret Hamas command node, setting up an Israeli attack on the key medical center that would later turn up zero compelling evidence of any sort of command center. It was just a blatantly illegal attack on a hospital that CNN provided cover for. Amid the war in Ukraine, there have been a number of embarrassing incidents for CNN. On one occasion, CNN spun a tale about a group of defiant Ukrainian soldiers stationed on Snake Island who refused to surrender to Russian troops and were all killed for it. CNN reported, quote, a Ukrainian soldier responds, Russian warship, go fuck yourself. Those were the final words heard from the island. All 13 Ukrainian defenders were killed in a Russian bombardment Thursday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said. Well, a few days later, CNN had to issue a correction that read, quote, update, the Ukrainian soldiers on Snake Island were all feared to have been killed in the Russian attack on February 24th. On February 28th, however, the Ukrainian Navy released a statement saying the troops were alive and well, but were forced to surrender due to the lack of ammunition. Good they're still alive, but that's the complete opposite of what you originally reported, which was a story of defiance and sacrifice. CNN was also a promoter early in the war of the Ghost of Kyiv, a Ukrainian fighter pilot who was performing heroic feats in the air shooting down Russian jets. Later, the Ukrainian military admitted that the Ghost of Kyiv actually was never real. It'd be easy to just chalk all this up to bad journalism, and no doubt Tapper, Bash, Ward, and the like are indeed bad journalists. But this is actually about ideology, not incompetence. Ideology is driving this. Whether it's in Ukraine, Syria, or Gaza, CNN isn't just reporting on what's happening, it's actively participating in the conflicts as war propagandists. Friends, over the last year, we've named scores of rich dicks, but one towers above them all. So in our final show of the year, it's appropriate to crown not just our rich dick of the week, but our rich dick of the entire dang year, who also happens to be our rich dick of the week. Yeah, it's Elon Musk. What can I say? The richest man on earth decided he's going to spend the week before Christmas demanding a government shutdown, screwing over hundreds of thousands of public workers who, unlike him, actually rely on receiving their paychecks. And right now, it looks like Musk is going to get what he wants. Musk, by sheer power of his factually incorrect tweets, forced the Speaker of the House to kill a carefully compromised short-term funding bill that would have avoided a government shutdown through March of next year. Speaker Johnson scrambled to come up with a different funding bill, which eventually got Musk's approval, I guess because it was fewer pages than the first one. Musk's official Doge account on Twitter noted that the new continuing resolution spending bill is 116 pages, versus the original 1,547. Post went on to name a couple things that were stripped out after Musk's online protests to make the bill smaller. No pay raise for Congress, no transfer of the football stadium land, no global engagement center extension, no section on pandemic preparedness and response, and no language change for justice-involved individuals. In other words, a bunch of bullshit that literally no one cares about unless their brain has been marinating in a lazy river of conservative Facebook memes. Except for that pandemic preparedness program, which does seem like a big deal. If only Musk and the gang could listen to themselves for a minute, celebrating the defunding of a pandemic response program on the heels of a pandemic that killed more than 1 million Americans, including a lot of Republican voters. I mean, how did our politics even get here? But yeah, great job on shrinking the size of the bill, numbnuts. In the end, Musk's preferred spending plan was defeated by a lot, 174 to 235, with dozens of Republicans even voting against it. So the government is careening toward a shutdown, which Musk is ultimately cool with. And even if a deal is eventually worked out, which is unlikely, a lot of damage was already done by Musk's tantrum. Among the things stripped out of the spending bill because it was too many pages for Musk's liking includes funding for breast and cervical cancer detection, funding for treatments of sickle cell disease, funding for research on conditions like Down syndrome and premature labor. All of this funding that will affect people's lives, and funding that barely makes a dent in total federal spending, killed off because Musk said so. Also stripped out was a provision that would have reined in pharmacy benefit managers who jack up the price of prescription drugs, and a provision to outlaw deepfake porn. So Musk is standing up for the constituency that enjoys exploitative deepfake porn and expensive medicine. Also the one that wants kids to get cancer, because Musk's protests also led Republicans to strip out a $190 million pediatric cancer research program that had been in existence for nearly a decade. Program would have been funded through 2033. Now it's essentially dead because the billionaire South African rallied hordes of blue check idiots to lie about the bill and Republicans caved. Screwing over kids with cancer just before the holidays. Elon Musk, the dang rich dick of the year, and the leading candidate for next year's rich dick of the year, too. All right, friends, the show ends today with a sunrise from North Carolina. It was sent in by Jeremy in Thomasville. Enjoy. Thank you, Jeremy. Show's over. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Please sign up for Means TV, subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels, and follow us on social media. One day, capitalism will fall. I promise it will. But until then, we're going to be right here. See you next year.